All right, let's dive into a topic that's been making waves in the real estate world, the BRRRR method.
Yeah, it seems like everyone's buzzing about it these days.
Exactly. Buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat, BRRR. We'll be using David M. Greene's book, Buy, Rehab, Rent, to break it all down.
I think what's really interesting about his book is that he kind of digs into why experienced investors are turning to BRRR.
Okay. So is it really all it's cracked up to be? What makes it so different?
Well, one of the biggest things is that it really emphasizes using your capital strategically. Like Greene himself talks about how limited he felt by his initial capital before he discovered BRRR.
So it's not just the typical buy and hold strategy.
Right. Traditional methods can tie up so much of your money in each property. But with BRRRR, the aim is to pull most of your initial investment back out through refinancing, and that lets you buy more properties faster than you could traditionally.
Makes sense. I mean, Green even illustrates this with that story, right, about traditional Tom versus Mastery Mike. After 16 years, Tom ends up with, what, 15 properties? While Mike, using BRRRR, owns 84.
Yeah. And that difference is huge. It shows how powerful compounding returns can be with BRRR. It's like Mike's built this wealth building machine, constantly refinancing, reinvesting, buying more and more properties.
That's a great analogy, like a snowball rolling downhill, just getting bigger and bigger. So let's unpack the first B in BRRR buying. Finding a good deal seems pretty crucial, right? What does Green say about that?
Well, when you think about it, buying right is the foundation, right? If you don't have a solid foundation. And Greene really pushes for looking for properties in personal distress situations.
Hmm. Personal distress. What does that actually mean for investors?
Well, think about those life events that might force someone to sell quickly, maybe even below market value, like divorce, job loss, medical emergencies. Those situations can lead to some good deals for investors.
So it's about being opportunistic, but in an ethical way, of course.
Of course. And of course, doing your due diligence to ensure you're getting a good deal. Remember, every deal is different.
Right. Speaking of evaluating deals, Green also talks about that 1% rule as a starting point.
Yeah, the 1% rule suggests that a good rental should bring in rent. That's about 1% of the purchase price each month. But you got to remember, it's just a starting point. Expenses like property taxes, HOA fees, you have to factor those in. And potential increases too. So a property barely scraping by that 1% might not be as good as one with a slightly lower ratio, but with more room to grow.
Makes sense. It's not just about hitting that 1% number blindly. There's more to it than that. Now, Green points out that single-family and multifamily properties are valued differently. How does that play into BRRR?
Well, lenders often see single-family homes as residences, primarily, whereas multifamily properties are viewed as investments, income generating. And that distinction is super important for BRRR because it can affect how your property gets appraised and financed.
Okay, so knowing your market inside and out is key. Green mentions focusing on adding square footage, specifically in the Southeast, because it really impacts property value there.
Right. That's an example of adjusting to your specific market. In some areas, square footage is king. In others, it might be the number of bedrooms or maybe proximity to certain amenities.
It's all about understanding what buyers in that specific market want, right?
Exactly. And Greene actually suggests analyzing several properties every day. He says it's like training those investment muscles to recognize good deals.
So the more you analyze, the better you get at spotting those diamonds in the rough.
Exactly. You start seeing patterns, you spot red flags quicker, you just get a gut feeling for what works.
Like a quarterback reading defenses. Experience breeds mastery. And speaking of mastery, Green says building a good team, that's even more important than extensive personal knowledge.
Yeah. Your core four, he calls them. A great real estate agent, a reliable lender, a top-notch contractor, and a highly competent property manager.
Those are your partners in success, for sure. He also talks about this rock stars know rock stars philosophy. You know that skilled professionals tend to connect with other exceptional people.
Networking. It's so important. You build this network of trusted advisors, and they understand your vision and can help you reach your goals. You don't need to be the expert on everything yourself. Surround yourself with people who are.
Surround yourself with those rock stars, right? And Green specifically recommends finding team members who are investors themselves.
They just bring a different perspective, you know. They understand your goals, speak your language. They've been there. Their insights can be so valuable.
Yeah. Find those who have walked the walk, not just talk the talk. Okay, so we've got our dream team assembled. Now onto the R for rehab. Green makes it clear that efficient rehab is key. to maximizing your after-repair value, or ARV.
Yeah, the rehab phase can make or break a BRRR deal. You need to find that balance between making it appealing
Hmm.
to renters, but also keeping those costs in check. Greene actually tells this story about a contractor who almost went bankrupt because he kept hiring his buddies, instead of focusing on talent and quality.
So even if you're tempted to cut corners or do favors, remember, quality work is a must.
Absolutely. And speaking of quality, Greene's upgrade hacking strategy, that's pretty clever.
Yeah, upgrade hacking, I like that. Basically using high-end materials in strategic areas, small surface areas, to create that luxury feel without breaking the bank.
Exactly. Think like expensive tile for a small bathroom floor. Or maybe opt for granite countertops if you're already doing a kitchen renovation anyway.
Making a big impact with small, calculated upgrades. I love that. Greene also tells a story about how a messy property actually cost him money during the appraisal. The appraiser just didn't value it as high.
It shows how those seemingly little details can make a huge difference.
Right. You want that property looking its absolute best for the appraisal. Clean, organized, no clutter. All right. So we've bought strategically, we've rehabbed efficiently. Now let's talk attracting tenants and generating that rental income.
Got to get those tenants in. And this is where understanding your local market really comes in handy.
Yeah. Greene suggests using tools like rentometer.com and talking to property managers to get a feel for rental rates in the area.
And of course, always pull those rental comps from the MLS. Remember, setting the right rent is a delicate dance, right? You got to attract tenants, but you got to maximize that cash flow too.
Right, a delicate balance. And one of Greene's big points is prioritizing higher quality tenants, even if it means lowering the rent just a bit. Why is that so important?
Because responsible tenants who pay on time and take care of the place, well, they're gold. They save you money in the long run. Fewer vacancies, less wear and tear. It's a long-term strategy.
Makes perfect sense. Lower tenant turnover, less hassle for you. All right, so we've covered buy, rehab, and rent. Now let's move on to the refinances stage. This is where it gets a little technical, with terms like loan to value, LTV, and loan to cost, LTC.
Right. And remember, with BRRRR, the refinance stage is key. It's how you get your initial investment back, and that frees up capital for the next deal. So LTV is the percentage of the property's value that the lender will finance. And LTC, that's the percentage of the total project cost they'll cover.
So the higher your LTV, the more money you can pull back out, right?
Right.
But what about LTC? How does that factor in?
The LTC is important, especially when you think about those rehab costs.
Mm.
Ideally, you want a lender who can structure a loan that maximizes both, your LTV and your LTC.
Okay, so finding the right lender is crucial. Greene actually discusses various financing options in the book, from conventional loans to FHA, VA, hard money, private financing, even house hacking.
Yeah, he tells a story about this investor who got a 25% ROI and lived rent-free through house hacking, living in one unit of a multifamily, renting out the others.
Talk about offsetting those expenses and boosting cash flow.
Exactly. It's a great way to leverage other people's money, or OPM as they say, to really ramp up your real estate portfolio.
And Greene's a big advocate for using OPM. He argues that while some people are scared of taking on debt with BRRRR, you're buying a tangible asset, real estate, not just investing in some company or fund. It's calculated risk with the potential for great rewards.
Exactly. And with BRR, you're not trying to stay in debt forever, right? You're aiming to refinance, get that initial investment back, and then do it all over again.
Rinse and repeat.
Mm.
So for those investors who might be a little hesitant about putting down a large sum up front, what would you tell them?
Well, I'd say that BRRR is designed to minimize that upfront investment. Find good deals, manage that rehab budget tightly, secure good financing. You can significantly reduce how much of your own cash you need to get started.
All right, we've laid a lot of groundwork here. We bought, rehabbed, found tenants, refinanced. What comes next?
Well, this is where the repeat part of BRRR comes into play. And that's where the magic really happens. But we'll delve into that more in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good. So be sure to join us for part 2, where we explore how to scale your BRRR strategy, achieve that geometric progression in wealth building, and really turn your real estate investments into a self-funding machine. All right, welcome back to our deep dive into the BRRR method. In part 1, we covered the first 4 steps: buy, rehab, rent, and refinance.
Yeah, we laid a lot of groundwork.
We did. So now let's talk about that final R, repeat. This is where we scale things up, and those exponential returns start kicking in, right?
That's right. Repeat is where the magic happens. Taking those profits from that first BRRR deal, reinvesting them into another property, then another, and another.
It's all about building that momentum, right? Creating that snowball effect.
It's more like a wealth building machine.
Yeah.
That keeps accelerating.
Yeah.
Every time you complete a BRRR cycle, it's like adding another engine to your portfolio. More cash flow, more equity.
I love that analogy. So where do systems and leverage come into play? Because Greene really emphasizes those, especially in this repeat phase.
Well, systems are like your blueprints for success. They make sure everything runs smoothly. And leverage, that's about using other people's time, money, expertise to really amplify your results.
So creating systems for finding deals, evaluating properties, managing rehab, screening tenants, all those crucial steps.
Exactly. Greene even suggests having checklists, spreadsheets, even scripts for each stage of the BRRR process. No more guesswork, fewer errors, and you can delegate tasks so much easier.
It's about creating a business that can run on autopilot, in a sense. Right, even if you're not directly involved in every single step.
That's the goal. And leverage that comes in when you hire a property manager to handle the day-to-day stuff. Maybe partner with a lender to fund your deals, even hiring an assistant for those administrative tasks.
So it's all about working smarter, not harder.
Exactly. Greene loves the 80-20 rule, right? 80% of your results coming from 20% of your effort. Figure out those high-impact activities, leverage out the rest, and boom, productivity skyrockets, wealth building accelerates.
This all sounds amazing, but I'm curious, what are some of the challenges people face when they try to scale their BRRR strategy? Because I'm sure there are some.
Well, one of the biggest is analysis paralysis. Overthinking every little thing, especially when you're dealing with multiple properties, complex transactions. It's easy to get bogged down in the details.
So finding that balance between being thorough, but also decisive.
Exactly. You need to be able to make those informed decisions quickly, without second-guessing yourself all the time.
Easier said than done sometimes, right?
It takes practice. And then there's time management. As your portfolio grows, that becomes even more crucial. You need to prioritize, delegate effectively, automate like crazy.
So creating those systems helps with that too, right? It's about working on your business, not just in it.
That's it. And it means learning to let go of that need to control every tiny detail. You got to trust your team, empower them to make decisions, and focus your energy on those things that only you can do.
Makes sense. Now, on the financial side, how do you manage cash flow when you've got multiple properties, rehabs going on? It seems like it could get pretty complex.
Yeah, cash flow management is key for any real estate investor. But when you're scaling your portfolio, it becomes even more crucial. You need to have a solid graph of your income, your expenses, and you got to develop strategies to maximize that cash flow.
Yeah.
And minimize your risk.
So things like setting those realistic rental rates, minimizing vacancy periods, negotiating good financing terms.
All of that.
Yeah.
And having a contingency plan for those unexpected expenses. Major repairs, maybe a vacancy that drags on longer than planned. Having a healthy reserve fund can give you that peace of mind, help you weather those financial storms.
Speaking of storms, what about market corrections? When property values decline, how do you protect yourself from those?
Well, market corrections, they're a natural part of the real estate cycle, and it's normal to feel a bit anxious about them, especially if you're new to investing. But the key to navigating those downturns is to focus on the fundamentals. Solid cash flow, a diversified portfolio, and a long-term perspective.
So not panicking when the market takes a dip, remembering that real estate is a long game.
Exactly. Corrections are often temporary. With patience and discipline, you can ride those waves and come out even stronger. In fact, they can even present opportunities to buy properties at a discount.
So it's about being informed, being prepared, and sometimes even finding those silver linings.
That's the spirit.
Okay, we've talked systems, leverage, cash flow, even market corrections. What about the mental and emotional side of things? Scaling your BRRRR strategy, that sounds pretty demanding, especially as you're juggling multiple properties, deals, all of that.
You're right, it can be demanding, both mentally and emotionally. So it's important to have strategies for managing stress, staying motivated, finding that work-life balance.
Any tips for staying sane and grounded while you're building this real estate empire?
Of course. First, set realistic goals. Don't try to do too much too soon. Start small. Gradually scale up as you gain experience. And prioritize self-care. Make time for things you enjoy. Exercise, meditation, spending time with people you love, hobbies. And don't be afraid to ask for help if you're feeling overwhelmed or struggling with a particular part of your business. Reach out to professionals or your network.
So it's not just about the strategy, it's about the mindset too.
Absolutely. Your mindset is just as important as your skill set. Develop positive, resilient mindset. and embrace the journey.
That's great advice. Now, let's talk about those home run deals, those properties that just generate amazing profits with minimal effort. How do you find those?
Well, finding a home run deal, it might seem like luck, but there are strategies to increase your chances.
So it's not just hoping for the best.
Not at all. It's about being proactive, strategic, and persistent. Here are a few strategies that can help. Network with other investors, attend meetups, join forums, connect on social media. They could be a wealth of information. And they often hear about off-market deals that you might miss otherwise.
So it's about tapping into that network, getting those inside scoops. What else?
Work with wholesalers. They specialize in finding those distressed properties, negotiating good prices, and then they assign those contracts to other investors for a fee. It's a great way to find those deeply discounted properties that aren't listed on the MLS.
Like a secret stash of deals.
Kind of. And look for those properties that require cash offers. Sellers in distress often prefer cash because it's faster, more certain. You can often snag a better deal by being a cash buyer. And then there are those properties with hidden potential.
The diamonds in the rough, how do you spot those?
That takes a bit of creativity and vision. Look for properties that might not be pretty, but have good bones, and with some strategic renovations can become amazing rentals. It's about seeing what others miss.
So it's not just about finding the right strategy, it's about having that right mindset too, right?
Exactly. You got to be persistent, resilient, and always learning, adapting to the market.
Real estate investing, it's a journey, not a destination, as they say. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about the importance of systems, especially for scaling that BRRRR strategy. Why are they so crucial?
Systems are the backbone of any successful business, and real estate is no different. They streamline everything, make you more efficient, and ensure that you get consistent results. Think of them like your blueprint for success for each stage of the BRRRR process.
So systems for finding deals, evaluating those properties, managing rehab, screening tenants, even refinancing.
All of it. Greene's a big fan of checklists, spreadsheets, even scripts for each step. This helps you stay organized, reduces errors, makes delegating so much easier, which is key when you want to build a team and scale up your business.
Makes sense. So it's about building that business that can run smoothly, even if you're not doing every little thing yourself.
Precisely. Systems bring clarity, reduce those mistakes, and let you focus on the things that really matter, those high-impact activities that move the needle.
What are some examples of those systems that BRRRR investors can actually implement?
Well, you could have a deal analysis system,
Yeah.
to evaluate those potential properties, criteria for location, purchase price, rehab budget, ARV, potential rental income.
Okay, so a systematic way to analyze each deal.
Like
Makes
that.
sense.
And a rehab management system, a detailed scope of work, budget breakdown, timeline, and a way to select and manage your contractors. And of course, a tenant screening system, background checks, credit checks, employment verification, all of that. And how could we forget a property management system for collecting rent, handling maintenance requests, communicating with tenants, and even a refinancing system for finding lenders, gathering documents, negotiating those loan terms.
Wow, so many systems. It sounds like a lot of upfront work to set all those up.
It is, but trust me, it's worth it. It'll save you so much time and headaches down the line.
Okay, so we've talked systems. Now let's talk leverage. What does that actually mean when it comes to real estate investing?
Leverage is all about using other people's time, money, expertise to get bigger results, working smarter, not harder, and maximizing your potential for growth.
So it's not just about doing everything yourself. It's about partnering with others strategically.
Exactly. You can leverage in a few ways. Financial leverage, using borrowed money to buy properties. You control more assets with less of your own capital.
So other people's money helping you grow faster.
Right. And time leverage. Delegating tasks to others frees you up to focus on those high-impact activities. And expertise leverage. Partner with those experts in areas where you might lack experience. Real estate agents, lenders, contractors, property managers, attorneys, accountants.
So it's like building your dream team of experts to support you.
Exactly. And here are a few tips for leveraging effectively. Build a strong team. Surround yourself with talent you can trust. Delegate. Don't be afraid to let go of tasks. Automate whenever you can. Use technology to streamline everything and negotiate those favorable terms. Always try to get the best deals possible. And of course, never stop learning and adapting. The real estate market, it's always changing.
So leverage is about working smarter, not harder, and maximizing all your resources.
That's the key.
Now, let's dive into cash flow management. How do you manage all of that when you're juggling multiple properties and rehabs?
Well, cash flow is king in real estate, especially when you're scaling your portfolio. You need to know your income, your expenses inside and out, and have strategies in place to maximize that cash flow and minimize your risk.
I imagine there are some common challenges that investors run into. What are those?
Oh, there are definitely a few. Sometimes investors have unrealistic rental projections. They overestimate income or underestimate expenses, and that can lead to those cash flow shortages.
Yeah, you got to be realistic with those numbers, right?
Absolutely. And those prolonged vacancy periods, empty units don't bring in money. So minimizing those vacancies, that's crucial. And then there are those unexpected repairs. Major repairs can be costly. And if you're not prepared, they can really throw off your cash flow. And of course, the rental market can fluctuate. Rents go up, rents go down. And that can impact your income. And we can't forget about those rising interest rates. Higher interest rates, bigger mortgage payments, less cash flow.
So many things to keep in mind. It's about being financially savvy,
Yeah.
right? And planning ahead.
Exactly. You need a contingency plan for those unexpected things. So how do you actually manage cash flow effectively when you're scaling? Well, set those realistic rental rates. Do your market research. Make sure the rent covers your expenses and gives you a decent return. Minimize those vacancy periods. Market your properties well. Screen your tenants carefully. Maybe offer incentives for longer leases.
So it's about being proactive
Yeah,
and making those units as appealing as possible.
exactly. And build that reserve fund. Set aside some of that rental income each month, just in case, for those major repair, those extended vacancies. And always negotiate those favorable financing terms. Shop around, get the best loan terms you can, lower interest rates, longer amortization periods. And this might seem obvious, but track your income and expenses diligently. Use software or spreadsheets. Know where your money's going.
Be organized, be financially responsible, right?
Absolutely. Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about the mental and emotional side of scaling your BRRR strategy. Because let's be real, it can be tough.
Yeah, I can imagine. You're juggling so many things, properties, deals, finances. It sounds pretty demanding.
It definitely can be. It's important to have strategies for managing that stress, staying motivated, and finding that balance between work and life.
Any tips for staying grounded throughout the process?
Of course, first, set realistic goals. Don't try to do too much at once. Start small, gradually scale up, and prioritize self-care. Make time for things you enjoy, exercise, meditation, spending time with your loved ones, hobbies, whatever helps you recharge.
Those are important reminders. It's easy to get caught up in the hustle and forget to take care of yourself.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask for help. If you're feeling overwhelmed or struggling, reach out to professionals, your support network. You don't have to do it all alone.
So success with BRRR isn't just about the strategy, it's about the mindset too.
Absolutely. Your mindset is just as important as your skill set.
Now let's talk about finding those home run deals, those properties that generate those incredible profits with minimal effort. How do you find those elusive gems?
Well, finding those home run deals might seem like luck, but there are definitely ways to increase your chances. It's about being proactive, strategic, and persistent.
So more than just hoping for the best.
Way more. You got to get out there, network with other investors, attend meetups, join online forums, connect on social media. Investors often know about those off-market deals, the ones you won't find listed publicly.
So it's about tapping into that network, getting those inside scoops.
Exactly. And consider working with wholesalers. They specialize in finding those distressed properties, negotiating those sweet deals. They then assign the contracts to other investors for a fee. It can be a great way to find deeply discounted properties, ones that you might not find otherwise.
It's like a secret stash of deals. I love it. What else?
Look for properties that need a cash offer. Sellers, especially those in distress, they often prefer cash. It's faster, more certain, less likely to fall through. So by being a cash buyer, you might snag a better deal, beat out the competition.
So being ready to move quickly is key.
Definitely. And then there are those properties with hidden potential. The ones that might need a little love but have good bones. They can be turned into fantastic rentals. It's about seeing what others miss.
It's like finding a vintage car that just needs some TLC.
Exactly. Remember, finding those home run deals, it's often a numbers game. You might have to look at a lot of properties before you find the perfect one. Be patient, persistent, and don't give up.
So it's about having the right strategy, but also the right mindset. Be persistent, resilient, and always be learning and adapting.
You got it.
All right, let's shift gears and talk financing. Greene's a big advocate of using other people's money, or OPM, to build your portfolio faster. Why is that?
OPM is a powerful tool. It lets you control more assets with less of your own money, and that can lead to faster growth, bigger returns.
But I know a lot of people are nervous about taking on debt, so why should they consider using OPM, especially for BRRRR?
Well, there are a few good reasons. OPM lets you buy more properties faster. You can't do that if you're only using your savings. It also can increase your returns. And mortgage interest, it's tax deductible, so that can reduce your tax burden. And real estate, it's generally considered a good hedge against inflation. So using OPM lets you take advantage of that.
So many benefits. Now, Greene also talks about those appraisal concerns. What if the appraisal comes in low? That can be a big worry for investors. What should you do if that happens?
Well, first, don't freak out. A slightly lower appraisal, that doesn't mean the deal's off. It just means you might need to adjust your strategy. You can always try to renegotiate the price with the seller if the appraisal is significantly lower. Or maybe bring more cash to closing to make up the difference if you can't renegotiate. And if you think that first appraisal was way off, get a second opinion, a second appraisal from a different appraiser. And of course, you can always walk away if you're not comfortable with the risks involved.
So it's about having a backup plan, being flexible.
Exactly. Real estate investing, it's rarely straightforward. There will be bumps in the road. But by being prepared and able to adjust, you can overcome those obstacles.
Okay, we've covered a ton of ground here, from the importance of systems and leverage to finding those home run deals. We talked about financing, appraisals, market corrections. BRRR is a multifaceted strategy. It takes knowledge, skill, and I think most importantly, the right mindset.
You hit the nail on the head. Success with BRRR, it's not just about following steps. It's about that growth mindset, being persistent, resilient, and enjoying the ride.
And that wraps up part 2 of our deep dive into David M. Greene's Buy, Rehab, Rent and the power of the BRRR method. Be sure to join us for part 3, where we'll dive into even more strategies for maximizing your returns, minimizing your risks, and achieving that financial freedom through real estate investing. All right, welcome back to our final deep dive into the BRRR method. We've covered a lot, from finding deals and rehabbing to financing and building that rockstar team.
And in this last part, we're going to explore some of the finer points, some advanced strategies that can really take your BRRRR to the next level.
I'm ready. One thing that really stood out to me in Greene's book was the idea of identifying the path of progress. What does that mean exactly?
The path of progress is all about recognizing the signs of an area that's about to boom. Seeing those neighborhoods that are on the verge of taking off.
Right.
Before they hit the mainstream.
So it's like predicting the future of the real estate market.
Well, not exactly predicting the future, but there are definitely clues, things that savvy investors look for. One big one is new construction, especially downtown.
So all those cranes popping up, that's a good sign.
It can be. If you see a lot of construction activity, that means developers are confident in the area. They're putting their money where their mouth is, betting on its future.
It's like a vote of confidence from the big players. What else should investors look for?
Keep an eye out for new businesses moving in, especially those trendy spots that attract a younger, wealthier crowd. Those cool coffee shops, hip restaurants, boutique fitness studios, co-working spaces.
So those businesses are usually a sign that things are changing, right? That a neighborhood is becoming more desirable.
Exactly. They often pop up in those revitalized areas, drawing in new residents. And that increased demand for housing, that's what drives up property values.
It's like a ripple effect. One positive change leads to another, creates a cycle of growth and opportunity.
Right. And speaking of attracting new residents, look for those young families moving in. That often signals a shift towards a more stable, family-friendly neighborhood. Good schools, nice amenities.
So families are a good indicator of long-term stability.
They tend to stay put longer, which means lower tenant turnover for you, and that creates a more stable investment.
That makes sense. Less turnover, less hassle. Now, Greene also talks about the psychology of buyers. Why is that important for understanding the path of progress?
Because understanding what makes people tick, what they want, what they can afford, that helps you anticipate where they'll move next. And then you can position yourself to capitalize on those trends.
So it's about thinking like a buyer, but with an investor's perspective.
Exactly. He gives this example of buyer Bob. He's priced out of his dream neighborhood, has to expand his search to more affordable areas.
So buyer Bob is like the typical home buyer, driven by affordability, but also wanting a nice place to live. And probably wanting to stay close to work or amenities.
Right. And by understanding buyer Bob's journey, you can figure out where he'll likely end up and then invest accordingly.
It's like predicting migration patterns. You just need to know where the flock is heading. But this path of progress, it's not always smooth sailing, right? There are risks involved.
Of course. One of the biggest is overpaying, getting caught up in the hype, without checking if the fundamentals are there to support long-term
You're
growth.
right. It's easy to get swept up in the excitement. How do you avoid falling into that trap?
Do your research. Analyze the market data. Make sure that growth is driven by solid economics, not just speculation.
So separating the real opportunities from those passing trends. What else?
Watch out for areas that depend heavily on a single industry or one big employer. If that company goes belly up or moves, the whole local economy can tank. Diversify. Choose areas with a more balanced, resilient economy.
Makes sense. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. What about environmental risks? Do those play a role?
Definitely. Flood zones, earthquake faults, wildfire-prone areas, those can seriously impact property values and insurance costs. So factor those into your calculations.
So it's about being a smart investor, proactive, informed, anticipate those risks, and then take steps to manage them.
Exactly. Now let's dive into another key part of BRRRR, maximizing that rental income, minimizing those vacancies. This is where your investment starts churning out that cash flow.
The moneymaker. And it seems like finding and keeping those good tenants, that's a big piece of the puzzle. It's huge. Greene says tenant selection is one of the most critical decisions you'll make. It can literally make or break your cash flow and your sanity. He's a big believer in prioritizing those higher quality tenants, even if it means taking a slightly lower rent.
So it's about finding that balance, right, between getting the most rent, but also avoiding the headaches of bad tenants.
Exactly. Happy tenants, they're more likely to stay put, pay their rent on time, and take care of your property. It's a win-win.
Absolutely. Any practical tips for attracting those ideal tenants?
Oh, definitely. First, market your property well. Showcase those amazing features. Use professional photos, videos, and write compelling descriptions that target your ideal renter.
So make it shine online.
Right. And screen those tenants thoroughly. Background checks, employment verification, credit checks, references, the whole 9 yards. You want to make sure you're choosing reliable, responsible people.
So no cutting corners on the screening process. Nope. And offer competitive rental rates. Research the market, set a rent that's attractive to tenants but also covers your expenses. And of course, maintain your property. Keep it clean, safe, and fix those maintenance issues quickly.
So it's about being a good landlord, creating a positive experience for your tenants.
That's it.
Now let's talk about minimizing those vacancy periods. Those empty units can really eat into your profits. Any strategies for keeping those units filled?
Well, one strategy is to price your rental just slightly below market value. It might seem counterintuitive, but it can attract more applicants and fill those vacancies faster.
Interesting. So sometimes a little less can actually be more.
Sometimes, yeah. And market your property effectively. Use those great photos, virtual tours, catchy descriptions. Make your listing stand out.
Make it irresistible.
Right. And consider offering some lease incentives, maybe a free month's rent or waive the application fee,
Yeah.
especially for longer leases. And be responsive. Respond to inquiries and applications quickly. Show those potential tenants you're eager to rent your place.
So make it easy for them.
Exactly. Use online applications, offer flexible showing times, all that good stuff. And of course, those thorough tenant screenings. We talked about those before, but they can really help avoid problem tenants and reduce those vacancies.
Screen.
Exactly. And before those new tenants move in, make sure the property is sparkling clean, freshly painted, everything in good repair.
So it's all about creating a smooth, appealing rental experience from start to finish.
That's the key.
Okay, let's move on to refinancing. This is how you get your initial investment back. Unlock the capital for your next BRRRR deal. What are the most important things to remember when it comes to refinancing?
The big one is maximizing your loan-to-value, your LTV. That's the percentage of the property's value that the lender will finance. Higher LTV, more money you can pull out.
So if the property has gone up in value since you bought it, and you've added value with those renovations, you're in a good spot to get a higher LTV.
Exactly. And don't settle for the first loan offer you get. Shop around. Compare interest rates, fees, closing costs from different lenders. Don't be afraid to negotiate.
So be a savvy borrower, get the best deal you can. What are some of the different types of loans that BRRRR investors might use?
Well, there are conventional loans. The most common type usually offer pretty competitive rates and terms. And then there are FHA loans. They're insured by the Federal Housing Administration. Easier to qualify for, especially for first-time buyers. And VA loans. Those are for eligible veterans, active duty military, surviving spouses. Great terms, often no down payment required.
Wow, so many options.
And then you have portfolio loans. Those are loans that the lender keeps instead of selling them off. Gives them more flexibility to set those terms. And then there are hard money loans. Those are usually short-term, higher interest, used for financing projects quickly.
So it's all about finding the loan that's the right fit for you, right?
Exactly.
Now, let's address the elephant in the room, those market corrections. When property values take a dip, it can be pretty scary for investors. What happens to all that equity you've built up?
Remember, equity isn't your only safety net. Cash flow and reserves, those are what protect you when the market takes a downturn.
So having enough rental income, even if rents drop a bit, and having that financial cushion just in case.
You got it. Focus on buying properties with strong cash flow and build up that reserve fund. You'll be able to ride out those market waves and might even come out ahead.
Love that optimism. And Greene, he even says that BRRRR can work even if you're not buying in cash. He challenges the idea that you need a ton of money to get started.
That's one of the biggest myths about BRRRR.
Yeah.
Cash can definitely make things easier, but it's not a requirement. With good financing, a smart rehab strategy, and maximizing your LTV when you refinance, you can really minimize that initial investment.
So it's about being strategic with your financing. Now, what about those appraisal concerns? What if the appraisal comes in low? That's a big worry for a lot of investors.
It's understandable. But even if the appraisals is a bit lower than expected, the BRRR model, because it's so efficient and minimizes that upfront investment, it can still outperform those traditional methods. It's all about running the numbers, having a backup plan, and being flexible.
So even with those potential bumps in the road, BRRR can still be a powerful tool for building wealth in real estate.
Absolutely.
Well, we've learned a lot today. Any final thoughts for our listeners before we wrap up our deep dive into BRRR?
I think the biggest takeaway is that BRRR, it's more than just a strategy, it's a mindset. Be proactive, resourceful, always keep learning and growing those skills. Embrace leverage. Build that amazing team of experts, and you can achieve those goals.
It's about taking control of your financial future, creating a life of freedom and abundance through real estate.
That's it. Remember, every journey starts with that first step. Don't be afraid to take it, and then keep going, one BRRR deal at a time.
I love that. Great advice to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the BRRRR method. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and feel inspired to take your real estate investing to the next level.